labor is a input into production, just like coal and steel and oil, but those are commodities, and they are not human, and therefore they do not have human rights, they do not have human interests. They are not human beings that strive to have a good life and a long life. And so the meaning of labor is not a commodity. The opposite side of the coin is that labor is human. And therefore that while labor is an input into production, it needs to be used in a humanized way with humanized working conditions and humanized pay and treatment. So essentially it means to raise the treatment of people above the other commodities that are used to produce the GDP of the nation. Well, of course the principle still applies because labor is embodied in people. This is what makes industrial relations possible as a subject, that the labor is an input into production, but the people do the work, and we cannot, so the farmer grows the wheat, but the wheat is separable from the farmer, and so the farmer sells the wheat to the bakery, and the farmer no longer cares if the wheat is stored in a cold place or a hot place. So the wheat is inanimate, so it doesn't know if it's being crushed or put in an oven. It doesn't know. But the labor is embodied in the person and cannot be separated from the person. So when the labor is used in production, it is always in a person. And so the person cares about the treatment. The person cares if it's hot or cold. The person wants to be safe and not have the arm crushed like the wheat. So as long as labor comes embodied in a person, the idea of labor is not a commodity will always apply. That's a difficult challenge for industrial relations because in the last 30, 40 years, neoliberalism and conservative free market economics has become the dominant theory or framework, and the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund have adopted these economic theories, and they are more powerful than the ILO. And so the ILO and people in industrial relations face a huge challenge to try to reassert that labor, the humanity of labor is a principle that should not be sacrificed to short-run economic interests and events. So, industrial relations, what it needs more than anything else is a theoretical framework that really is convincing, just like economic theory. So economics has theory, and it's strong. It's been developed over 200 years since Adam Smith. And so when people from the IMF or World Bank, or I'm just using those as examples, but when they walk into the room and they make an argument about labor standards or free trade, they have a theory which gives it scientific credibility. Industrial relations does not really have, or labor law does not have, much of a theoretical framework, so when we argue our side of the case, it's a weaker argument. And so one of the things we really need is a convincing theory of industrial relations, theory of labor law, that when we walk into the room to have a debate on policy with economists or other people, it gives us the intellectual tools, the ideas, to make our argument that labor is not a commodity, to put it not only on a moral ground, on an ethical foundation, but also on a scientific one.